Delta CX, available for CX and UX consulting, projects, and training. Contact us for a free consultation.
Hey everybody, it's Debbie Levitt from Delta CX. I hope everybody's doing very well today. Wouldn't you know, I get here and of course my system logs me out of our live chat, but I'll work on that. So how's everybody doing? Today is July 1st. Can you believe it? 2020. Not going fast enough. So today we're going to be talking about portfolios and some do's and don'ts for portfolios. And I did a video about this in the past, but it was kind of long and rambly, and hopefully this one will be less rambly, and I'll take that one down, and this will be the go-to video, at least for my July 2020 opinions on portfolios. So as always, these are my opinions, and we are live in the LinkedIn and YouTube chat. And don't forget to please subscribe on YouTube and let everybody know about my channel. That would be a great way to support what I do, and I thank you very much. Byron is here. Good to see you, Byron. It's been a few years. How are you? Andra's here. Hooray. Chinu's here. Yay. And someone named IPEX Music World. Hi. Will this cover research portfolios? Sort of. I'm going to be giving general UX portfolio advice. This may or may not be exactly for researchers, but I am going to talk about research as well. So will this cover UX research portfolios? I'm going to say mostly. The rambly rambles. I gotta do something about that. So please subscribe on YouTube. Don't forget you can join our Slack channel, Slack workspace, deltacx.link, my URL shortener, /join Slack, all one word. So today I'm going to be working from, hi honey, good to see you. I'm going to be working from a Medium article that I wrote about this, and that's going to help me be less rambly. So let's see. I think Tarina is here too, maybe. And if you're calling me, I can't answer. So this is an article I wrote on Medium. It's called 2 Main Keys to Great UX Portfolios. This was from December 2019, and I think I still agree with myself. So if you want to see the article version, you can dig that up on Medium. I find I can find it if I write Medium Levitt UX portfolios. It will pretty much come up. What is vibrating and why? So that would be my phone. Let me just say that. Okay, so let's talk about this. And again, when I do portfolio reviews for people, and I do very often, I offer everyone one free UX portfolio review with me. Hey, Tarina is here. So again, as questions and comments come up, just write them in the chat. I'm watching both. Hi, Darren, and of course, Monique. So the first thing that I'm looking at in a UX portfolio, there's 2 things. I'm looking at your work and your process and your approach. Did you do great work? Did you do deep work? Did you do proper work? And again, that's going to be an opinion, but did you do solid, deep, correct UX work versus skimping versus more surface work? Hey, Anna P., good to see you. Or did you use some strange or trendy methodology that really doesn't dive in deep enough? Did you guess versus know from research? So I'm looking at this. Hi, Sylvia. Good to see you. So that's one thing I'm looking at. And then the other thing I'm looking at is, what was your storytelling in your portfolio around these projects? So sometimes people did a good process, but their storytelling isn't great. And remember, the storytelling is how I know what the process is. So these 2 really go together. So remember that your portfolio in itself is kind of its own UX project. Put on your UX hat. I don't have a UX hat. And imagine I am the user, that hiring manager, that recruiter. What do they need to see? Because remember, to me, a portfolio has one job: make someone want to interview you. You don't have to get the job. You don't have to be hired. No one has to ask you on a date. But the portfolio has to be strong enough that someone goes, I think this person could really do the job here or fit in here, or this is an interesting person, let's meet them. That's all it has to do. So remember that I need to clearly understand what you did, in what order, why, how, with whom, what did you do, what did you learn, what were the outcomes, what changed along the way. That's part of your storytelling, but it's the storytelling of your process and project. You need to end up fine-tuning your portfolio for the people who will see it. And I also think of a portfolio, I imagine that this is someone who is giving a presentation at a job. So I imagine if I were to have you do a presentation at the job and say, hey, now that we finished this project, can you please give a 5-minute presentation to the group about everything that we did? And you'd need to be able to hit the high notes and cover the most important things and tell a good story and keep people interested and things like that. So I imagine this is what you'd be like at the job giving a presentation. That means there's some things I leave out. So moving back to what we were talking about and peeking back at my Medium article, this is where I remind everybody that you've got 2 target audiences in general for the portfolio. Very often your portfolio is seen by audience 1, who I will call a recruiter, an HR person, probably not the person who's going to be your boss, but could be someone who decides if your portfolio and resume and CV even get seen by someone. And that person may or may not know anything about UX. They're usually looking for pretty pictures and walls of sticky notes and a couple of things that to them say UX that makes them think you can do this. So we've got to get it past that person. And then we also have the hiring manager. And hopefully the hiring manager is someone who knows UX well, understands UX, understands proper processes and approaches. I've got a request for the link to the Medium article, so I'll post that in the wrong place. Give me a moment. I'll post that in both chat rooms, though again, I am going to be reading from it a little bit, so give me a break. Let's see if I can sneak over to here and post that. So again, you can join in the Medium article or share it out to friends later. I'd always appreciate that. And of course, you can follow me on Medium if you should like. So as I was saying, there are 2 target audiences for your portfolio. And that's where people sometimes get confused because they say, should I have 2 portfolios? Should I have 1? What do I do when people keep telling me, make the portfolio shorter, and then someone else says, I didn't get enough detail, make it longer. How do you make it shorter and longer at the same time? So I will be addressing that today as well. So again, looking back at my Medium article, which today is serving as my notes. So you've got the person who hopefully gets UX, and then remember in some cases you've got someone who maybe doesn't get UX very well, and like that hypothetical recruiter or HR or non-UX person, they might just be looking for some pretty pictures and a couple of bullet points and paragraphs. So ultimately, when we, just like in our UX work, we sometimes have to design one thing for multiple audiences based on their needs and tasks. Same thing for your portfolio. I wouldn't necessarily have 2 versions of it. I would have one version that finds a way to fit everybody's needs. Now, next I'm going to talk about some common mistakes, because in December and January, I looked at 60 portfolios roughly. And in the last week, I've started looking at a lot of portfolios again. I'm looking at 2 or 3 a day. I've got 3 to do tomorrow. I took today off from portfolios. And so I'm seeing a lot of these, and I just see the same mistakes over and over again. And I see these mistakes really across the board. I see them from people who are self-taught. I see them from people who went to a boot camp, even different boot camps. And I even see them from people who got bachelor's or master's in UX-related topics. So if you think I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to you. This is really for everybody. And look, even my portfolio could be better, but I happen to get my career up to a point where my reputation started becoming more important than my portfolio. So I know mine could be better. Don't go look at mine and go, Debbie, yours, blah, blah, blah. I know. But somehow I still mostly get work, minus the pandemic. And so please don't model after me. I've been in this a long time. And again, my reputation precedes me. So yours might not. Your portfolio has to do a much better job, and fixing mine's on the to-do list. Maybe Christmas? I don't know. So, though someone did look at it a week or so ago, and they said, I loved your portfolio, and I loved your sense of humor. So I said, okay, maybe it's not a disaster, but, dentist's teeth. Okay, so let's talk about some common portfolio mistakes. And the first one I see a lot, and I call it, I did a thing. So I see a lot of, and then I did research. Cricket, cricket. And I never find out what type of research did you do? Who did you do it? Like, who were the participants? How many were there? Where did you find them? Or how did you select them? What were 3 of the questions that you asked that you thought would be the most interesting? And give me 3 to 5 bullet points of the things that you learned specifically from the interviews. What I typically see is, and then I did interviews. Cricket, cricket, cricket. And then someone gives me an affinity map or some sort of picture of, you know what I'm talking about, picture of sticky notes. And I usually can't even zoom in on it, so we're going to get to that. And I'm just supposed to think, oh, yeah, this person is great at planning, executing, and interpreting research because they did a thing, and then put some sticky notes up. And the reality is, if you want me or someone like me or a UX senior or lead or manager to be able to assess, can you do the job? That's all I care about. Can you do this job? If you can, I want to meet you. If you can't, I might not want to meet you unless I have a specific role where I'm open to people who are not totally job ready, and I have an ability to have them apprentice, but that's quite rare, as many of you are finding out, not just from me, but from the world as it is in July 2020. So remember, if I need to judge the depth and quality of your work, I need to know a little bit more about it. Now, here's where we start to get into, oh, Deb, I don't want my portfolio to be too long. People are telling me, make it shorter, make it shorter. So this is where I remind people you can watch from the podcasts. Episode 18 was the best UX portfolio I've seen so far. Now, admittedly, his was very long. But even if you take away some of the length of it, he had used some interesting approaches to organize his information. So, for example, let's say he's getting to research. Now, the recruiter or the HR person or the person who doesn't deeply understand UX probably wants to hear, I did research, here's a picture of sticky notes on a wall, here's something else that will be meaningful to somebody. But then what he had was, he had a link, and it said something like, read more about my research process. And I've seen people do that where it opens up in a light box, which might not be the most mobile friendly, but you can test it out. Opens up in a light box, and there I got about a page and a half or a screen and a half of his research process in more detail with some nice bullet points and a couple of extra images. And he did the same thing throughout his portfolio for everything he wanted to expand upon, where he could kind of foresee and predict the difference between what the non-UX person wants to see, which is more of that overview and some pretty pictures, and what the UX veteran expert manager is likely to want to see to prove the depth and quality of his work and what his approach is. So I recommend something like that for everybody. Again, his portfolio, if you watch that one, is a bit long. I don't recommend you have something that long, but I do recommend following his idea of showing a short or medium-sized aspect of that stage or phase or task, and then having some way to expand on it for the people like me who are looking for some detail because I want to assess your ability to do this thing. Another problem that I see, and I even saw it a few days ago, was PDFs. Do not have your resume as a PDF. It's not friendly for my phone. I don't want to download a PDF. The other day, someone from a boot camp sent me their portfolio, and it was a 37-page PDF. Sorry, I'm a little blurry. A 37-page PDF. Now, this is a lovely person. I'm not trying to poop on her as a person, but who wants to read that? We don't even want to read that at work. We don't want to read the instruction manual. This is where I remind people, UX your own portfolio. Think about what's people's attention span. What do they want to see? What do they want to know? Probably not 37 pages. So I've also seen some portfolios where they tried to take the approach that I am talking about with giving a small to medium amount of information and then having a link that says, here's more stuff. But I saw one of them that kept linking to PDFs. Like, if you want to see my research process, click here, and then it was like a 12-page PDF. I don't want that. Can you give me a way, either through an accordion or a light box or opening in a new tab? Give me more about your research process, page and a half, whatever it might be, but no PDFs. So guys, no PDFs. Bonus thing, stop blaming this. I don't know if this is in my article, but stop blaming whatever cheap ass system you put your website into for why your portfolio doesn't look good. If your portfolio doesn't look good, get WordPress hosting, install Divi, and make a good looking page. I'm supposedly paying you to come work at my company to make good looking pages. If your portfolio looks sloppy, weird, wacky, doesn't format well, etc., you think I want you to come make web pages at my company? So don't be held back by, ooh, I had to use Squarespace, Wix, UX Portfolio, Behance. Don't let your tool murder you. Okay, so no PDFs. We all agree, right? Swear? Okay, next. Set up images to click to enlarge when I click. So very often I see these things which are like, and then I did a sitemap, and it's this graphic, and the text is microscopic, and I'm on a 32-inch television here, and I still can't see it, and I'm leaning in, and I'm looking for my glasses. I want to be able to click to enlarge because, again, I don't want to just see you did a thing. I don't want to just see you made a sitemap or a wireframe. I want to be able to see the quality of that work. Remember, I'm not judging. Can someone make things? That's not UX. Maybe that's something else. Maybe that's design thinking or something else. You know, I don't want to just know you did a thing. I want to know a lot more about it. I'm looking for detail. I'm looking for quality. I'm looking for depth. Again, maybe someone else isn't. That's fine. If you want to work for the company that got fooled by something or the company that accepted you based on a couple of pretty pictures of an app screen, okay. But what are they going to understand about UX? And are you going to be glad you took that job? You might be writing to me later going, Deb, what do I do? What about showing portfolio on Behance? I've seen Behance. Last I saw Behance was just uploading images. If you can still just upload images, that's probably bad because what do they look like on my phone? What does that image look like on my phone when my phone makes it tiny, tiny? So no, I'm going to go with no on Behance, but remember, it's up to you to put your UX hat on, which I don't have. I should go get one of my other hats. You all know my critical thinking hat. I'm going to go get my UX hat. Hold on. Now that I'm wearing a wireless mic system, I can do these things. Okay, so let's talk about, so remember, you're not going to suffer from, okay, I've got a good hat. I'm coming back. Though I never took the tag off it. Okay, that looks a little weird. All right, I'm coming back. This is my UX hat, not to be confused with my critical thinking hat. Okay, I'm back. Because, oh no, I'm green screening myself. Boo, you can see right through my head. Okay, well, we'll have to rethink hats. But basically, UX hat on. Do I want to see my own portfolio? You know, does this really suck? So again, I just always say, get yourself a WordPress website. I'm using DreamHost. You know, I always think about how awesome Disney stuff is. So this could be my UX hat. So just think about that. So let me get back to the list and keep the questions coming, but I am not a Behance fan, and I would have to say I prefer just get WordPress and wrangle it. Denise says, I would approach designing my portfolio as a UX project. Who will be checking? It is my user, and I start knowing this person, HR, UX designer. That can affect the success of my portfolio. Well, yeah, absolutely. And in reality, it has to appeal to both people. It has to appeal to the HR person who might not understand UX, but is looking for some key things they've been told to look for that tell them to pass you on to that hiring manager. And then you want the hiring manager to be impressed too. So you've got multiple audiences here. And Tarina says, love the hat. Thank you, Serena. Okay, so remember, set up images to click to enlarge. I'm so tired of seeing microscopic things that I can't zoom in on, or things that are self-animating, and I'm like, I can't control this. Stop. Images without captions are incredibly confusing. So often on portfolios, the first thing people like to show me is a giant picture, or sometimes a masonry picture of 2 zillion app screens. What is that? I don't know. I'm not in your head. I'm not in your head. Your user is not in your head. Can you believe I never took the tags off? What was I thinking? Your user's not in your head, so please give pictures captions. You're telling me a story, remember? What's the story? What is this? Is this the finished product? Is this the before? Is this an after? Is this somewhere in the middle? I don't know. And if it's a finished product, you've started your story at the end, which a lot of people do, so that's a style. I'm not going to say never do that, but I would definitely love to see a story in order. Praveen says, will it help having something like an executive summary for one kind of audience and the detailed stories for ones who are interested? I think the best way to go is to have short to medium versions of things and then use an accordion or a light box. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up light box or think about pop-ups that come up with an X to close. Have that for the people who want the super detail. So images without captions, do not like, because I'm not in your head and I don't know what this is. So is this a good idea? Is this a rejected idea? What am I looking at right now? Help me out, peeps. I'm not in your head. Here's another thing. I see a lot of too many final screens without showing steps. I've seen a lot of portfolios where it was like just words for some of the process, like, then I did research. Then I came up with findings. Then I made a persona. Then I made a thing. And the whole thing has maybe some pictures, but I see lots of pictures of the final thing. App screens, fully graphically designed app screens, app screens, app screens. Peeps, I'm here to look at your process. I'm here to see if you understand UX, or is there something in your portfolio that shows me you kind of don't understand UX. And again, if this is an apprenticeship or an internship, maybe I'm okay with that. But if this is hit the ground running, mission critical work, there's so many things I need you to show me that you know. You're welcome, Praveen. Always good to see you, by the way. How was Scotland? So let's see. Must be getting hot this time of year. Looking at my notes, Wacky Angles is next on my list. You know who you are, masonry lovers. I don't love masonry because I am function over form person. And if you want me to judge your work, I do not want to see your work on a 45-degree angle. I want to just see your work presented clearly and plainly. So there's a time to design things, and there's a time to just present them rather cleanly and plainly. I think it's fine if you want to superimpose screens you've done on devices. If you have a stock photo of devices, you can superimpose a screen on that. I'm cool with that. I'm talking about masonry. If you're not familiar, Google it. Y'all know. Masonry. Where it's like it's like Pinterest. Oh my God, Pinterest makes my brain scramble eggy. I just don't have a brain for that, peeps. I want to see pictures that make sense in some sort of grid, but maybe I'm just more delineated than everybody else. And again, keep the questions and comments coming as we go. You guys are doing a great job. I love seeing the questions and comments. Next, writing mistakes. Do me a favor. Do yourself a favor. Read your portfolio out loud, twice and slowly. First, read it out loud and stop and correct everything that's wrong. Spelling mistakes. I forgot to put a period on this sentence. The sentence that never ended. The sentence I accidentally copied and pasted into 4 places. The thing that didn't sound like English. And again, I tend to not judge people's English too harshly if it's not their first language. But remember, a lot of our job is proving that we are detail-oriented. So making sure that you spell things correctly as much as possible, making sure that what you're saying makes sense, making sure that you don't have sentences that never end, will be important. I saw a portfolio project the other day from someone who got their master's degree and they spelled the name of the client wrong, and they spelled it wrong 2 different ways. And they did not spell it right at any point in the project or even the slug, the URL. Would I not interview them just for that? No, but kind of sloppy. Do we agree? Kind of sloppy to not spell your client's name correctly. And of course I sent them the portfolio review and they wrote back and they said, I can't tell you how many people reviewed this and never noticed that. And it's a very famous company. So if you're not sure how to spell something, Google it. If you're not sure if you've spelled anything correctly, copy and paste your text into Microsoft Word or Grammarly or whatever you use. Check for errors, paste it back in. Don't wait for me to catch it, because then I'm going, wasting my time. So remember, look for spelling errors, read it out loud twice. The first time is your first proofreading pass. You're going to fix everything. Then take a break, have lunch, talk to your dogs, go outside, come back, read it out loud again. You will find more problems. Fix them. So next on my article, it says, mistakes of process, approach, or execution normally imply a lack of training, education, or practice. These are not fixed by storytelling. You can't storytell your way out of having done the wrong thing. Yeah, you can do a little bit. I mean, so for example, let's say this is a school project and you only interviewed 2 people. But you know, in reality, you should have interviewed, let's say, 20. You can storytell your way out of that a little by saying, because this was a school project, I only interviewed 2 people, but I know, storytelling hand, process hand, but I know that it's best to interview 5 to 10 people per persona or target audience. And then I go, okay, they know the right thing to do. They didn't do the right thing, but they had a reason why. Storytelling helps me out. But remember, if your process was really not good, better storytelling may not help it. We just won't be able to paint over what this is. This is going to have to be improved by leveling yourself up. So if I give you a portfolio review and I say, I'm sorry, there were too many things here that make me feel that I would not interview you. Not that I have a real job, but I'm playing fake hiring manager. You might not be able to fix that with storytelling. Use this as a self-awareness opportunity or a call to action from an outside friend to keep learning and keep practicing. You might not be ready for that entry-level job, and better storytelling won't help you. Please don't lie or fudge. That's not going to help you either, because remember, when I get you in that interview and I start asking you about this process, if these 2 things don't match up, or your story sounds a little weird, now I don't trust you, now you don't get the job. So my article says, many of the portfolios I've seen recently are from people who finished a trade school or are self-taught and looking for that first job, especially if you went to a bad boot camp out there that didn't really prepare you for a job. You probably need more education, practice, mentoring, and coaching before you're likely to get that job. So remember, not everybody who completed a boot camp or a degree or an online course is ready for a UX job and will get that job. You are not guaranteed a job because you did any particular degree or course. So let's talk about some mistakes that I tend to see in people's process. First of all, too many team projects. Y'all know who you are. Hands up, who's got a portfolio full of team projects? And I don't mean the cross-functional team. I mean me and 4 people from my school did this project together. So think classmates. Now, you may have enjoyed that project and you may feel it's a good case study, but when I look at it, who am I hiring? I'm hiring you. I'm not hiring you and 4 classmates. I don't know what you alone can do. If you do not use your storytelling to explain to me what you did or what you didn't do, it is really hard for me to judge you. It's really hard. And hypothetically, you want me to judge you because you want me to judge you positively and bring you in for an interview. If you have team projects, you really need to get some solo projects in there. Adis, I don't know if you're just waving at me or raising your hand, but of course, if you have a question or a comment, just say it. You don't have to raise your hand. And yes, again, I'm not pointing at anybody in particular. Almost every portfolio I've seen is full of school and group projects. And again, it's so hard because how do I know what you did? Am I going to give you credit for something good someone else did? Am I going to hold you responsible for something bad someone else did? I mean, I remember looking at someone's portfolio and going, oh wow, your visual design's like really not that good. It looks like you don't understand accessibility. It looks like you don't understand primary and secondary buttons. It looks like you don't understand color contrast. It looks like your typography is strange. I didn't say it quite like that, but I got those points across slightly more gently. And of course, their response was, oh, I didn't do the visual design. And I said, take it out of the portfolio project. Why do I need to see something you didn't do? And why do I need to see something you didn't do that's actually not that good? So again, be careful about these team projects. Boot camps and schools love to put you on team projects, not because this is what the real life in UX looks like, but because it's easier for them. It's easier for them to check 4 projects than 20. So in real life, I have rarely been on a UX project with someone else from UX. Very rarely. Usually I am the only UX person on that project. So just know that these projects where you're working with 4 and 5 and 6 other UX practitioners, even though you were students, it probably doesn't happen except it may be some of your larger companies or enterprise organizations where the UX team really gets into it together. But that has not been my experience. Maybe it's someone's experience, but this is kind of rare. Shruti says, should my portfolio have all the work I've done or just the latest and the best? Great question. I would say probably the latest and the best. There's a lot of talk going around that most hiring managers are going to spend 1 or 2 minutes in your portfolio, and if they don't see something they like, they're gone. If they see something they like, they're either going to look at a little bit more or they're just going to call you in for an interview. So that means you don't have to have 27 projects. You really just have to have 1 strong one, 2 strong ones. My portfolio has, I think, 9, but only because I'm trying to show projects that addressed different areas of UX. Like, here's where I did a lot of research. Here's where I did some research and some interaction design. So I'm trying to show some different types of things that I did across some different industries. But because I've got these kind of cover images, it's very clear what the project was for what type of industry. And that way someone can look at it and go, oh yeah, we're a SaaS company. I just want to look at her SaaS portfolio pieces. Or we're a financial company. I'm interested in these 2 financial ones. Or we're retail. I'm going to look at that one. So that's why I've got more than 1 to let people pick and choose. But in general, chances are they're picking 1 and looking at it and going, we like her or we don't. Praveen says, I've got to go. Remember, everybody, that this is all of our stuff is always archived on YouTube. So if you miss the rest of it or you want to show this to someone, tell them to go to the Delta CX YouTube channel, which you can get to from deltacx.tv, which is a redirect. And please subscribe and share it out. So let's keep talking about stuff based on what's in my Medium article. So, too many group projects. There you go. Shruti says, enterprise organizations work in teams for ideation and critique the review process. Yeah, but again, not everybody's going to have that first job in an enterprise organization. So chances are I'm looking to see if you can do something yourself. Here's my next point from my Medium article. Most of us on the planet right now are using user-centered design or human-centered design. In some cases, I've been shown a process that I've never seen before, I've never heard of before. Someone's portfolio a week or so ago had a process, and it looked like it was like 8 steps. And step 3 was design thinking. And I was like, wow, so that's like 5 steps unto itself. And then and there was no step that said testing, but the testing couldn't be part of design thinking because after design thinking, they put ideating separately, but then there was no testing. Peeps, be careful of making up your own UX approaches. If I get you in an interview, I'm going to ask you, what's your UX process? Or how do you tend to approach most projects? You need to have a solid answer ready to go. My answer is always, I use user-centered design, human-centered design, and this is the process I go through. I start with this, I go through this, I go through this, and I have an answer ready to go with a real process that people have heard of. Shruti says, fortunately or unfortunately, I've worked in enterprise since the beginning of my career. Yeah, fortunately or unfortunately. But again, even if you, I would still want to see if you can do something yourself, because chances are, even in an enterprise organization, if you are working with other UX people, you're dividing the work. And so I want to see more about what you can do yourself, your approach, your process, your decisions, how you thought through a problem. I still want to get to know you. I'm interviewing you, not your team. So be careful when you are showing a process that you made up or doesn't exist. Now, in some cases, we have stylistic differences. You know, I say I'm into UCD and HCD. Somebody puts into their portfolio double diamond. I'm not going to knock them out because we have a different stylistic approach. But if you don't still show me a good process and dedication to solid UX work that is based in research and knowledge, if you show me guessing, if you show me assuming, if you show me hypotheses, which, let's face it, are guesses and assumptions with a fancy Greek name, I'm not going to be impressed. I want to see that you are doing good research, and if you're not the researcher, that's fine. If you are doing the architecture and interaction design, that's cool. But make sure you're working from someone else's solid research and not, I've seen a few ones that were like, hey, I'm a visual designer and I do wireframes, so here's a page, here's the before, here's the after, hire me, I do wireframes. And I said, that's not UX, that's web design. Jason says, what is a good source of traditional processes? I don't know what you mean by a source of traditional processes, but I would say the most common traditional UX processes are user-centered design and human-centered design, which to many people are the same thing. Less traditional would be this double diamond, which I'm not totally into. And design thinking is barely a thing, as you guys know from episode 50. Design thinking has jumped the shark. So again, whatever you do, I don't care. I'm not as attached to what you call it. I am looking for depth and quality. And even if you show no process and you just start taking me through steps and a story, that's fine too. But I need to see that you did stuff with depth and quality and not guessing. I can't tell you how many guessed fake made up personas I've seen. That's not how we do personas. They're based on good interviews and observational studies and research. I have seen so many guessed customer journey maps. That's not how we do customer journey maps. Maggie says, what about a thought on an About Me page? You can definitely have an About Me page, but I may never click on it. But you can still have that there in case somebody wants to know more about you. I'm not against it. I'm just saying don't be sad if nobody looks at it. They may be judging you by your work and not your biography. Okay, next common mistake I see in process is what I'm going to call an over-reliance on group workshops. And I see this from time to time where it's like, the first thing I did was hold a group workshop with the client and these stakeholders so that we could sketch out some early ideas. And I go, well, hold on. Step 1 was sketch ideas? What happened to research? What happened to getting to know our customers? What happened to What are some other things you could do early in the process? What happened to making sure that the problem we're supposed to solve is the real problem, the worst problem, the only problem, the right problem? So sometimes I see portfolio projects that are like, first I did a design workshop with everybody where we sketched out some ideas, and then a couple of steps later they did another group workshop with people. And I just tell people, the more group workshops you see, the more people will wonder why you work there, because they're going to go, we could have done this without her. Why is she here again? She just keeps calling us together to do her work. I want to see that you can do work. Anybody can call a group workshop together and get stuff out of other people. What can you do? What could you do if you never called a group workshop? Because sometimes I never call a group workshop. What can you do if you didn't have other people sketching stuff for and with you? I want to know that. So, as my article says, if your portfolio shows that every time you wanted to work on something, or many times, you got a team together and you did a design sprint or a co-design workshop or whatever, I might assume you can't get any work done by yourself. Collaborating and collecting ideas from others can be important, but workplaces are often looking for someone who can get the work done by themselves. Sruthi says, should a portfolio always be a website? As I've worked for enterprise, I can't broadcast the information, any solution around this problem. Yes, if you have portfolio stuff that you can't show because of confidentiality, non-disclosures, you have two choices. One is you try to make it anonymous, where you remove the logos and the phone numbers and a lot of the text and put in lorem ipsum so that nobody can tell who this is. If that's not good enough, your portfolio is going to have to maybe have some sample or fake projects and then say, I can show you more stuff in an interview, but I cannot put these things on the web because of confidentiality, and my portfolio says that. Next problem I see with process are what I'm calling non-traditional deliverables. My article says, I saw a lot of personas that didn't look like personas. Quick personas note, people, please stop putting ethnicity on them. I do not design differently for black people than white people. Please stop doing white persona, black persona. Please stop doing man persona, woman persona. That's not how personas are made. It's not make sure you have one guy and one girl. We group people by fears, motivations, habits, behaviors, preferences, and tasks or jobs to be done. Do not group them by demographics. We group them more by mental models and needs and tasks more than we group them by how old are they, or do they own a home, or are they multi-ethnic, whatever you want to, wherever you're going with that. I've also seen customer journey maps that are not customer journey maps. I saw one the other day that was definitely not a customer journey map. It was a bunch of boxes that was this person guessing at how the customer feels about different aspects of their life, and then they tried to draw the emotional ups and downs of that in the customer journey map. And it was definitely not a customer journey map. And I think that's going to reflect badly on you as well. So, because I'm going to go, they think that's a customer journey map? Or sometimes I see the customer journey map for how the customer will feel when we build this wonderful thing and it solves their problem. A customer journey map is not a dream of the future. It is what is their real process now. And we know that process not from guesses and assumptions, but from proper research where we learned their process. So heads up there. Let me refresh this page because we're getting a comment that I can't see right now. And it's Maureen. Good to see you, Maureen. She says, exactly. I agree. I agree with you agreeing with me. Storyboards. I've never done a storyboard, and all of the storyboards I've seen in portfolios appear to be draw a cartoon of how happy your customer is going to be when you build the thing that solves their problem. I don't do that. I don't know what the future looks like. I don't know what my solution is. And what does that storyboard even mean? If you sit down in my interview, I'm going to go, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that storyboard? What does it represent? if you showed it to engineering, what would you tell them it represents? Look, I drew a cartoon about the customer dancing for joy when they can actually pay their bill online. Not a thing. I don't see that done. So be careful of non-traditional deliverables. I don't want to see your storyboard of, and then everything went great and the customer was so happy. It's not a thing. Let's see, what else does it say? Storyboards of aspirational customer experiences. Yes. Okay, next thing I see that is a huge mistake is solution first. I saw many portfolios that laid out the problem or project and then went right to solutions or solution ideas. So, hi, I'm so-and-so. Here's my project. Here's what the project was. And my hypothesis is that people need this. Whoa, hold on. First of all, remember, hypothesis is Greek for I'm guessing and assuming. So I don't want guessing and assuming. You can start a project without guessing and assuming. And you can start a project without starting to come up with ideas for the solution. You're trying to come up with a solution way too early. You haven't even done research, or you're not using good research from another researcher. And that makes me think, if you come work for me, you're just going to guess. You're going to guess at stuff, and you're going to guess arrogantly. So be careful of showing me that you love to guess. Alex says, what about applying progressive disclosure? Yeah, that's exactly what I'm, do you mean for long portfolios, Alex? That would be a, you don't need progressive disclosure because you're not filling out a form, but you could use an accordion. So people could expand and contract additional information about the project or this step of the project, or you could use a light box that pops up and then closes. I think that's your question. Alex says, here's the solution we came up with, and if you want to see how we got there, keep reading. Well, yeah, but that's not what's happening, Alex. What's actually happening when I see these portfolios is not, by the way, here's how the story ends. Now let's show you how we got there. It's actually, here's the start of the story. And at the start of the story, I started coming up with solutions or solution ideas before they did research. I will never forget the portfolio I saw in January, no names, where someone actually said, here's my hypothesis of what this app should do. Now I'm going to go do research. And I'm thinking, I hope this person doesn't skew their research to try to make them look right. And they ended up writing, based on my research, it looks like people don't really like my idea. And then it was something like, but I thought my idea was good, so let's continue with it. I'm yelling. I'm sitting here yelling. This I do not want to hire the person who cannot listen to the research that says this project's going in the wrong direction, and they insist on continuing to go in the wrong direction. So I want to see that you really understand problems and customers and tasks and needs. And that means holding off on solutions, holding off on sketches, holding off on ideas until you've done better research. If you don't love doing UX research, I still expect you to hold off until you get good CX or UX research from your specialist teammate so that you are doing things well informed. What's a good way of writing a problem statement? Something short and compelling. I mean, give me an example. What's the problem? And I'll write you a problem statement. I'm having a hard time guessing right now. Okay, next problem that I see in process, not the storytelling, the process. Poor mobile design. So many of you, usually for a boot camp or school project, did a mobile app. Now, of course, I would love to sit you down and say, why did this have to be an app? Why couldn't it have been a mobile responsive website? Will you know the answer to that? Why it had to be an app and it couldn't be a mobile responsive website? Don't tell me people love to download apps, do you? So, poor mobile design. Many schools and boot camps ask you to design a mobile app. Nearly every portfolio I've seen has shown a hamburger menu and a bottom navigation. In reality, we choose one of these. You wouldn't have both, because each is a different approach to navigation, so you pick one. I have seen mobile apps that had information in a lot of columns. that might not fly. I've seen mobile app designs in bootcamp portfolios that had the tiniest text in the world so that they could try to fit something on a phone screen. These show me that you don't really know about mobile app design, that you didn't learn some best practices, and that you haven't even noticed some best practices from the apps that you use every day. So make sure you truly understand approaches, paradigms, and best practices of mobile app design or mobile web design, whatever it is, because I'm going to notice if you get this wrong. You're not fooling me. I'm not sure I've been fooled by anything. Next, I want to talk about, I see terms being used incorrectly, which tells me you don't know what those terms mean. One person said they did user testing through ethnographic studies. Are you sure? If I sit you down in an interview and I say, tell me what you did, and they said, I did an ethnographic study, and I say, define that for me. What did you do? How was it an ethnographic study? You better know. If you know, great. If you don't know, and you thought you could use a cool word, now you look kind of dumb. I don't have a dumb hat. I saw someone else describe a 2-week project as a design sprint. And a design sprint is a real thing with a real definition, and it's not a project that happens to take 2 weeks. It's a whole thing unto itself. And the project wasn't a design sprint. It was just that they spent 2 weeks on something and called it a design sprint when it wasn't. I've seen the word agile thrown around all over the place. We want users to be able to complete their task in an agile way. You just throw in an agile. If I sit you down in an interview and I say, describe agile to me. Engineers follow agile or variations of agile. Tell me about agile. I had a call with General Assembly in November, and I said, look, you're teaching all the wrong things the wrong ways. And here's low-hanging fruit for you. Does anyone graduating your school know what agile is? Yet they're all applying to jobs that say must have worked in an agile environment or must understand agile approaches. Do you even tell them what agile is? I don't think they know. But remember, if you throw these words in and you don't use them correctly, I can tell. And that leaves a bad impression. Wow, they really didn't know what that meant. They thought they could fool me. You thought you could fool me. Boo. Fly swatter on you. Slap. I also don't like how a lot of portfolios end with what I call the emotional self-assessment. This project was really a challenge to me. I really enjoyed the design workshop. I was very happy with my clean visual design. I learned how important it is to collaborate with a team. Don't care. And this sounds like an 8th grade book report. CX and UX are about having low or no ego. If your wrap-up of your project is about you and your feelings about yourself, I might feel like this is a bit of an ego moment. And remember, if you were doing a presentation to the company, to the group, to the team, to the department about your project at the end of it, you wouldn't end it with, and I learned so much about... No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't do that. Stakeholders don't want to hear a PowerPoint slide about how you felt about your own work and where you felt like you personally grew. So I like to see people take those things out. If you want to include them because your boot camp says include them, fine. And then when you make the portfolio the public's going to see, take them out. I know most people won't make it that far down the page, but I still suggest taking them out because I do make it that far down the page. Another common mistake I see is UI isn't UX. I do see, not a lot, but I do see some portfolios who are mostly visual designers who really want to get into UX and probably read the book that says, graphic and visual designers, you can make a lot more money putting UX on your resume, so just start calling everything you do UX. And so they have these online portfolios that say, look, I redesigned this screen. No interviews, no data, no knowledge, no users, no testing. If no users were involved in any way, it probably isn't UX, as the stickers and the memes say. It's not UX without the user. Maggie says, do you recommend we don't put a takeaways section because it looks like an ego moment? I think that if the takeaway section is going to have ego stuff like I grew as a person or I learned about teamwork, I wouldn't include that. If the end of the portfolio has thanks to our work, we were able to increase revenues by 2%. Leave that. Thanks to this work, we were able to increase trial signups for the third quarter. Leave that. If you have something concrete that happened, leave that, especially if it makes the company money or helps the company fulfill a goal. But I really don't want to hear a summary of the project based on your emotional mirror looking at yourself. Just weird. Can you imagine me ending a podcast going, I think I did a pretty good job today. I think I spoke clearly, and I think I answered questions quickly, and I learned you really have to juggle the Medium article with how I look on camera, with the comments that are coming in, and I think I did well there. So Jason says, to give an example on writing a problem statement, I see people formulating a problem to a how might we question. Is it a good approach stating a problem in one question? Well, I'm not a fan of the how might we paradigm, so that could just be a stylistic thing. But ultimately, a problem statement is a statement, it's not a question. And the problem is that the problem statement that a project starts with, if you do good enough research, is probably not the problem statement you end up with later. So you can always say, we started with a problem statement that said blah, blah, blah. Later on after research, we realized the problem statement really should be this. I'd love to see something like that. If you want to change your problem statement later because you got better information, love it. I love seeing people say, we need to change this or shift what we originally thought because we got better information. Love that. Just love that. Anna says, can the takeaways include next steps, what I would have done with more time and resources? Anna, I might not make it to the bottom of the page, so I would include what I would have done along the way. So if you know that there was a flawed step in a project because it was school and they wouldn't let you do certain things, tell me there. Don't wait to see if I make it to the bottom to go, oh, by the way, information architecture, I should have done this. Make it contextual. When you're telling me about information architecture, say, my school didn't support me doing any card sorting or tree testing. They really just wanted me to guess at information architecture. So, I did a flow and I did a sitemap, but this unfortunately was not backed by any good research data or testing, and I know that in a real project, that's what should happen. Tell me there. Don't wait till I get to the bottom. I might not make it to the bottom. Sylvia says, don't forget your ability to switch hats seamlessly. Do you mean my UX hat and my critical thinking hat? Guys, there's more. So we are going to run a little bit late today because there's just too much here for me to do an hour podcast, believe it or not. We just have too much stuff, and you guys have such great questions. Keep them coming. So remember that to me, and you can disagree, but to me, if you are a visual designer who makes wireframes or makes mock-ups, you're not doing UX work if no users were involved. I would prefer if you didn't call it UX work, I would call it web design. I would call it visual design. So I know sometimes those people get the job anyway because things are so pretty, but for those of us who are looking for people who can do deep and quality work, that won't pass my standards, and especially not if their visual design shows they don't know anything about accessibility. Boo. Again, our work is about depth and quality. Without depth, quality, process, and attention to aspects of cognitive psychology, you are a UI designer or a website designer. Please don't tell me, well, by doing the visual design, I changed the UX, so I am a UX designer. If you have to try to convince me that you're a UX designer, we're at a bad spot. So, that's a tough spot. And let's see. Max says, should you list UX certifications? Not in a portfolio. Your resume or your CV is going to be your place for certifications, education, tools, work experience, things like that. That's going to be resume and CV. And the portfolio is going to be more of a case study about a project with storytelling. Michelle is here. Hi, Michelle. What's considered better or more supportive evidence for problem statements? Quantitative versus qualitative, is one better than the other? Super question, Michelle. In the UX world, qualitative tends to be way more important than quantitative. And the story I always tell is from a job I was at where a product manager said 27% of people are filtering their mobile search results, their mobile web search results. We think that's not enough. We want to force them to filter, so let's make a project that pushes them into filters. Hold on. Where's the data that says this is a problem? Do these people complain more, buy less, spend less? So numbers don't always really help. And that's another thing. I see a lot of boot camp projects and university projects that say, first I ran a survey. A lot of times UX doesn't do surveys and doesn't do focus groups. You know, we just find that surveys are too often badly written. People fill them out, sometimes non-honestly, or they're so badly written they can't even pick an answer. Go back and see, what was it, episode 52 about surveys? And then data is often badly manipulated or meaningless. 57% of people pressed the sad face when they walked out of this bathroom. What does that mean? We don't know. Is that actionable? Should we now act on that? We don't even know what's wrong. We're missing the qualitative. So I think in the UX world, while people do like to see numbers here and there, the qualitative will always win, and the qualitative obtained from appropriate sources and processes versus qualitative that I guessed at. Because there's certainly qualitative that you may have guessed at. One bonus thing that I mentioned in my article is, and those of you following me on LinkedIn for some time will remember this post from maybe January 2020. I was going through someone's portfolio, and all of a sudden I stumbled on some clip art. Now, this isn't just everyday clip art. This person had found an actual photo of Hitler, and they had adjusted Hitler so that he looked like he was doing something relevant to their project. I don't know how many ways that I can say this, but Hitler is not clip art. I don't know if you think that's funny. I don't know if you think that's cute, attention grabbing, but it definitely shows a... you won't get the interview from me. That was pretty surprising, and it stays with me. And I checked a few months later after I'd sent this person my portfolio review and said, "Are you effing kidding me? Hitler comes off this thing right now. Hitler's not funny," and it was still there. So, you know, and when I posted on LinkedIn about it at the time, there were some pretty random people who were like, "You just want likes." I'm like, no one's pressing like. Everyone's looking at a picture of Hitler and not pressing like. So I'm not doing this for likes. And someone else wrote, "You're trying to shame this person." And I said, shame them? First of all, they should be ashamed. Second of all, I didn't give you their name or the portfolio URL. So I would want to shame them, but I'm not. So let's please remember to be sensitive. Because we're always talking about empathy. Have empathy. Empathy. Fill your world with empathy. Drink a cup of empathy. If you really want to have empathy, then you're not using anything that is racial, ethnic, religious, based on dictators, atrocities, slavery. Don't make slavery jokes. I mean, how do I have to tell you this? So, you know, important stuff to know. Most of you already know this, but evidently not some people. So that pretty much makes it through my Medium article. I'm happy to continue taking, Scott says, got my weekly empathy shot appointment this week. Good. I hope you will be full of empathy microbes. So I hope that this helps. This is going to be required watching for anybody who wants a portfolio review with me, because sweet holy lord of your choice, and you get to choose, I am just saying the same things to people every single day. I am saying this process doesn't make sense. This doesn't tell me what you did. I can't figure out what's going on here. Is this a real project? Is this a fake project? Was this school? Was this a team? I'm very often I'm saying to people, yep, you guessed it that. You guessed. Now, the best thing you can do, again, is let the storytelling fill in some holes. Hey, this was a school project. They wouldn't let me talk to more people. They wouldn't let me blah, blah, blah. I had to go with my gut on this one, and I wasn't able to do a better process. Tell me what the better process should have been, and I'll probably give you a little bit of a pass on that. But if you just walk me through the school project and go, yep, and then I interviewed 2 people, not enough. And then I decided to come up with these solutions. Holy cats, you rushed into solutions. And then, like, if I see a lot of guessing and stuff, it looks bad. I remember seeing one portfolio project where they had one persona, and they decided the persona was an NFL player. And I was like, well, that's extremely specific, and that is a very small target audience. Only so many people are current or retired NFL players. Are you sure that's who you mean? Because ultimately they were trying to, their target audience was big and tall men, as they say in America. But somehow they were like, this person's an NFL player. I'm like, so we only sell to NFL players? Do you understand personas? So remember that the portfolio's job is to tell your story of your process, your approach, why you did things or why you didn't do things, how you did things, so that I go, I really want to meet that person. I want to talk to that person. What other questions do you guys have about portfolios? Let's get them out now. Even though you can always ask these things in office hours, which is every Tuesday. Again, as always, please subscribe on YouTube. Thank you to the 14 people watching in YouTube right now. That's a fantastic crowd. Let's see, LinkedIn, we've got 17 people. This is a record for me. Thank you, everybody. I thought this would be a hot topic. And again, this will be archived on YouTube, so just go to the live stream podcasts playlist. You can always find them in chronological order, newest first. I'll get it in there after we're done. Please subscribe for lots more content on CX and UX. Tomorrow we'll be doing UX in video gaming with Celia Hodent, and all kinds of big stuff coming this month. But please continue asking me these questions, and please know that this video is now required viewing, because I spend at, most of you who have had a portfolio review from me know I spend a half hour on each one. And I would say 20 minutes of that is telling people the same thing over and over, pointing out spelling mistakes, telling them the storytelling was poor, showing them that they didn't give me enough information to judge if they did research correctly. You can't just say I did research. You've got to tell me, here's a little bit more about what I did and where I found these people and some things I learned. I'm telling people the same things over and over. So you're going to watch this first, you're going to fix your portfolio, and then you can show it to me. So that way, hopefully you have fixed the most common mistakes. So again, we are 9 minutes over time. We've gone a little bit long on this one, but please, I'll stick around a few more minutes in case you guys have any questions. But other than that, I will have to wrap up soon because I think I have a coaching call, at 8:30. Thank you to the people joining on Slack. Thank you so much. Slack, we have about 150 people. It's still a little quiet, but we welcome participation there. You can ask questions there, and when I'm awake, I try to answer them quickly. I think most of you who've gotten in touch with me privately through Slack, through LinkedIn messaging, through other ways, I think you could tell everybody else here that I am available and accessible, and I do try to answer people quickly and thoroughly. Any other questions about portfolios? There are no stupid questions. Please ask anything that you're thinking. Let's get it out there, because if you have a question, other people have the same question, and it would be great to get this out there for everybody. looking at my LinkedIn, my emails. Thank you, everybody, for all of your subscriptions. Thank you so much. Maggie says she is. Scott says, good luck. Looking forward to tomorrow. Yeah, Scott, was that your idea to get Celia to do gaming? Tarina says, thank you so much. Thank you, Tarina. You had a pretty good portfolio. That was a nice breath of fresh air. Maggie says, thank you, Deb. Awesome as always. Thank you. Monique says, yeah, tomorrow's talk also looks good. I hope they all look good. I kind of don't want you to look at any of them and go, oh, not so much. But I know anything that helps our associates and juniors and people looking to transition in, I know that's going to be a hot topic. I'll try to do some more of those, but I do try to do a lot of broad topics that would appeal to people who are at every level of UX, from director, manager, leader, down to, ooh, I hope to do this someday. Thank you, Michelle. I'm glad you found the channel too, and see you in Slack. Jason says, should we include metrics or KPIs? Always, always, always. If you have metrics, very often we don't. So if you don't, I understand, neither do I. But if you have the metrics and KPIs, remember I need them in two places. I need them at the beginning of the story. Here's what we set out to do. Here's what we were looking for and how we were going to measure it. Here's what the KPIs were. Here's what the baseline was. Then I need it at the end of the story. I'd much rather see an end of the story that says, and we shot for a 1% increase and we got a 1.2% increase. Beautiful. We shot for a 2% increase and we got a 1.5% increase. Still pretty good. So I would rather see that than I learned a lot and I grew as a person. So if you have any metrics, anything that's being measured, any goals, I definitely want to see those, and those will impress people more than almost anything on the page. Tarina, thank you. Tarina, you're just a super fan. Thank you, Tarina. We follow each other's dogs on Instagram. What else, everybody? Again, I'll stay a couple of more minutes just in case there are some last questions, because, again, Jason's question was great about should we include metrics, and I want to get these questions in so the recording has some of the key questions that people are going to wonder and ask after hearing all of that. And sorry to the people listening to the audio-only version, I'm drinking my dinner shake. But don't worry, we've only got a few more minutes, and then I'm going to wrap it up. Last questions, last chance. I need background music for when... No, then YouTube like finds me. YouTube adds ads and whatever. If there are no more, then the reason why I stay a few extra minutes for questions is because sometimes LinkedIn is 2 or 3 minutes behind in the stream, and YouTube, you guys are usually about 20 seconds behind where I am. LinkedIn is sometimes 2 or more minutes behind, and I don't want those people to hear like, and goodbye, and then they're like, oh, I had a question. So I try to give people a good few minutes warning that I'm going to wrap up and ask their last questions now, because sometimes LinkedIn is on another plane of existence. Jason says, should we avoid technical jargon for HR people? I don't think so. I think the HR people generally, especially if they wrote the job description or are familiar with the job description, then they're going to be, they might even be looking for those keywords. They might be looking for you to say, and I used Figma, Sketch, Axure, Marvel, Principle. You know, and I did qualitative research, or I did evaluative. I think you should use those words, because not only will they be lovely keywords, but chances are somebody, even in HR who might not get UX, might be hoping to see some words that showed up in the job description. Like, I don't totally get this job description, but yeah, oh, I wrote this here and they said that word here. So I think don't avoid technical jargon, because the hiring manager or that UX expert will want to see that you know these words and use them correctly, and the HR person will either gloss over them and go, I don't know this word, but I assume it's a technical word, or they'll recognize it as matching their job description. So good question. I think it's okay to use those words. LinkedIn people, how far behind are you? I better check. Yeah, they look a couple of minutes behind. That's why I always say subscribe on YouTube. It's much closer to a conversation. You guys in YouTube, do you feel like we're almost having a conversation? Oh man, there are questions here that I never got shown. People in LinkedIn have been asking questions and I'm not seeing them. LinkedIn people, I'm so sorry. Serby says, I'm working on a digital product for 1 year, 8 months now. Confused about what to put in my portfolio. There are many things I worked on. Any suggestions? Serby, everything you can. I want to know everything you can do in as much detail as you are allowed to give it to me. Julianne says, how should I handle adding to my UX design profile now that I'm in my first UX job, so I don't share anything confidential? Julianne, congratulations on being in your first UX job. Again, there are two ways to do that, as I mentioned earlier. One is you can scrub it, which means you take off logo, phone number, email, wording, anything that shows who the company is. But again, if it's your first job, we're all going to kind of guess what this is. So you might have to say something like, everything at my current job is confidential, but if you interview me, I can show you some of this project, but I can't post it publicly. But then you need to have a portfolio with something up there. So I don't know if that's school projects or fake projects or something so that I can judge you. Daniel says, Serby, I'm in a similar situation. What should we focus on if our project covered a lot of stuff? Cover the stuff. I want to know if you are great at competitive analysis, audit and heuristics, content strategy, writing, information architecture, card sorting, tree testing, site maps, user flows, interaction design, prototyping, visual design, knitting. Like, I want to see it. I want to know who you are. I want to know what you can do. I want to see what your strengths are, what your subspecialties are, and maybe what you're not so great at. Tell me your story. Tell me your story. James says, how would you approach a portfolio for a Power BI or Tableau analyst? No idea. That's not my specialist. That's not my specialty, James. I'm sorry. We focus mostly on CX and UX here, so I'm not really sure what the right portfolio would be for Tableau because I'm not really familiar with what HR or hiring managers tend to look for. And that's why I can't give you an answer because I don't know. Oh gosh, I'm just seeing some of these LinkedIn things now. LinkedIn. Sruthi says, you're amazing. I can't believe I came in and missed knowing you all this while. Power to you. Thank you, Sruthi. Let's make sure you're subscribed. And Mac said, you are awesome. Mac, good to see you again. Didn't we meet? Oh, we met at a conference, Mac. Mac, did we meet at Disney? I do my best to remember everything I can about all you guys, but there are 7,500 of you following me, so and almost 3,000 connections. So I can't remember everything about everybody, but I met Mac at a conference, and which one was it? Was it Disney? Nicole says, I tried to access via YouTube but couldn't, so I switched to LinkedIn. Hey, I'm just happy to see you guys no matter where you are. I just know that sometimes YouTube is a little bit faster, and for some reason my combined comment tool today was only showing YouTube comments after a certain point, so it must have broken some sort of connection there. I apologize to the LinkedIn people. I was not ignoring you. You weren't showing up in my system. I should have been suspicious. So any other questions? Last chance. We'll count down, a minute or two, and then we will say goodbye. But I hope to see everybody again soon. And if you're not following me on LinkedIn, please do. Didn't we? Max says, is focusing on one project enough? I don't know when he wrote that. If you only have one really good project, that's fine, because most hiring managers are going to judge you in 1 or 2 minutes. So if you only have one project, if you have 9 projects, I'm going to pick one and I'm going to look at it. And if your first project isn't your best project, consider reordering them, because I might just look at your first project. So if you have one really strong project with great storytelling, great process, I think that can be enough. The reason why I have so many in mind is I'm trying to show specialties and subspecialties in multiple areas, work I did in some different industries, just hoping that something I've done appeals to the person looking at that portfolio. Anna C. says, what's the best way to reach you for a portfolio review? Great question. Step 1, watch this video. Step 2, I need to add more time back into my calendar because I had a specific calendar appointment that would get you there. Let me see if I can find the URL, and if it's working, I will copy and paste it onto the screen. Let's see if it's working. It's working, but I've got no times available. So I will add times, but let's put this up on the screen as some text. Give me a moment to edit my titles because I produce my own show. I don't have someone else who types my stuff for me. And let's send this up to the screen. 2, no, not 2, 2, 2. Come on, don't be grumpy. I can't get 2 up. Maybe I can get 1 up. Hold on. My little TV system. There we go. 1 worked. 2 didn't. Guys, you can't use this right now. I've got to go into the system and I've got to add some open dates. But assume that by tomorrow, July 2, this will work. And what it does is it allows you to put your portfolio review into my calendar. My system might invite you, but just whether you say yes or no, it doesn't matter. You are not invited. When I do portfolio reviews, I use my TV studio software to record a video for you. I email it to you via WeTransfer. So it does not go up on YouTube. It's not shared with anybody. It's private just for you. And so technically you are not invited. My calendar system might invite you. You are not invited and you are not coming and do not show up. But by using this link, deltacx.link/portfolio-review, which as of tomorrow will have some open slots. Right now, I think it has none. You are just putting yourself in my calendar so that my calendar blocks out that time for me to do your portfolio review, and I'll do it roughly that time. Sometimes I do it a little earlier if my day's free. Sometimes I do it a little later if the day went crazy. So that would be how you get your free portfolio review, but again, please look tomorrow. I forgot to make some open times available. That's it. Let's wrap up. I've got a coaching call in a few minutes. Thanks again to everybody who asked so many fantastic questions. It was great to see so many of you today. And again, I live stream usually about 3 times a week. So if you like the content, there's plenty to come back for. And if you can't make it live, which is usually 6:30 p.m. Italy time, please check the YouTube channel at deltacx.tv for a redirect, or just search Delta CX on YouTube, and everything is archived there in different playlists. Just go through the playlists, find what you're looking for, and it's yours, and it's free. There's no subscription, and if it ever shows ads in the future, sorry, but for now, I don't think it's showing ads, so it should be easy for you to work with. And I try to speak medium speed and deliberately, so I think you can run me at 1.5x if you'd like. All right, on that note, let's sing us out of here, and I will catch you guys very, very soon. And again, thanks to all of you for all of your interaction and involvement. Good luck with everything, and may the good portfolios be with you.
Thanks for watching. Delta CX is available for consulting and projects related to CX and UX strategy, leadership, training, problem finding, problem solving, and innovation. Learn more at deltacx.com.